The budget, the reason the president wants to eliminate that $70 billion tax break, was at the top of his agenda yesterday as well. Obama held meetings with Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell, the top Democrat and Republican in the Senate, respectively. Tad DeHaven is a budget analyst for the Cato Institute. He calls these budget talks a mission impossible. Tad also worked as a budget policy advisor to Senators Jeff Sessions and Tom Coburn. He's on the phone with us this morning. So, Tad, do you think that the president's efforts to try and eliminate these tax exemptions, these loopholes, if you will, whether it be for oil and gas exploration or whether it be the last in, first out accounting provision, are ultimately going to work, ultimately going to wash with Republicans?
It's honestly hard to say. I think it depends on what he's willing to go with in terms of spending cuts. And the concern I have is I'm yet to hear anything in terms of a concrete proposal to cut. And Republicans haven't put up anything that they want to cut. Obviously, the administration, all we're hearing about is maybe $1 trillion to $2 trillion. Look, over the next 10 years, the federal government is scheduled to spend about $46 trillion. So $2 trillion isn't a heck of a lot. And there's also ways to get so-called cuts just by spending less versus the baseline, what they're projected to spend. And I think the lack of specifics is of concern right now. And, just listening to that report, the president wants another program for the federal government to go out and give money to businesses because, the government is apparently so wonderful at picking winners and losers. At the same time, it's looking to increase taxes on businesses. And that sort of shows the hypocrisy of government policy. On one hand, apparently letting these companies keep their own money isn't a good idea. On the other hand, taking taxpayer money and giving it to businesses is somehow a wonderful idea.
Well, but Tad, to your point, I mean, many people would argue that there is nothing more hypocritical, nothing more distortive to the economy than loopholes and tax exemptions for individual industries.
You'll get no disagreement with me. The tax code is a mess. Companies spend $1 gazillion every year just in terms of compliance and paperwork. But I think tax reform should be handled as tax reform. I don't think that's something that you need to try and tinker here and there with in the next 2 weeks. I think that should be taken separately. Look, we have a spending problem in this country. If you look at the projections going forward, even if you keep the Bush tax cuts and you continue to patch the AMT, revenues as a share of the economy are probably going to go back to their historical average. It is spending that has reached a historically high plateau and will continue to do so. And the imbalance between those revenues and that spending is what's driving the deficits and the debt.
Well, we'll have to wait and see which party chooses to take leadership on the spending front. Tad, thanks very much for joining us here on the Inside Track. Tad DeHaven, a budget analyst at the Cato Institute.